Which mockup image looks better to you, number 1 or number 2? What a ridiculous question, you might be saying to yourself. What kind of a fool would create mockup images featuring a dirty, stain-covered couch? Okay, let's look at a more realistic example. Which mockup image looks better, number 1 or number 2? Here in this video, we're going to talk about the importance of having high-quality, attractive mockup images on your print-on-demand store. We're going to look at several examples of stores and sellers that are doing this right. We're going to talk about how this works from an advertising and consumer psychology standpoint. We're going to talk about the pricing side of things and how improving the packaging and presentation of your products can allow you to charge higher prices that customers will willingly pay for. I'm also going to show you how to automate the creation of your mockup images. So instead of wasting hours of time creating your mockup images one by one, you can instead just click a few buttons and generate hundreds of mockups for all your print-on-demand products in bulk, completely automated, with virtually no work or time spent on your part. So let's jump into it. One of the key things that can help your print-on-demand products stand out in the overcrowded print-on-demand space are high-quality, visually attractive mockup images, especially when customers have a large number of options to choose from. Something as simple as the presentation of your product can make a big difference in getting them to click, and can also make it more likely that they'll actually convert from your website, just because it looks like a higher quality offering that you're selling. We're going to use this e-commerce store here, Inktuitive, as an excellent example of mockup images done right, in my opinion. So one thing you'll notice about their store is they use really high quality, sort of, luxury looking mockup images, and they actually push it to the next level to where they'll create unique mockup images specific to the artwork piece that they're showcasing. So you'll notice here, this Bitcoin one, this is more of like a finance sort of image, and the color scheme of the mockup actually matches the artwork. And there's sort of a subtle glow to the scene that sort of aligns with what the artwork image here is doing. This one here, it's a gorilla smoking a cigar, and the mockup image they use is sort of like a, leather, luxury, cigar lounge type of environment. There's even a subtle little smoking cigar down here on the table if you look closely at it. This is a level of effort and attention to detail that's rarely seen, and they apparently do this for quite literally like all of their product offerings. This one here, Make Your Move, it's sort of like a chess-themed motivational artwork piece. And again, the mockup image, it's a room where people are playing chess. They have the plush leather chairs. The color scheme matches. This one down here, same thing. There's a little red accent. It's like a black and red artwork piece, and the room matches with the artwork image. This is really just like the next level of effort put into the presentation of their products. And I would argue and make the case that this sort of positioning and packaging of their products is a big part of what allows them to charge such a high price point on their website and get people to gladly part with their money. They're charging $250 for this item here for the plain canvas. You want to throw a frame on it? Cool, $329. You want to get the XL size? No problem, buddy. Fork over $700. $700, that's a lot of fucking cash right there. Scroll down here, this one particular item has 65 reviews. That's not 65 sales, that's 65 reviews. These are verified people who bought the shit, hung it up in their living space. So clearly, what they're doing is working for them. Now you might say to yourself, at the end of the day, what's it really matter? We're all selling the same shit. It's the same canvas art products just being printed on some fabric and being shipped out to them. If I want to just use the shitty, blurry default images that don't really look that wonderful, at the end of the day, artwork is artwork. Really, if you just look to the world of advertising and marketing, it's pretty self-evident that a better packaging will just make it more likely that your product will drive conversions, and especially if you're trying to charge a higher price point and have a sort of aspirational luxury brand. Look to any higher price brand that you can think of, and all of them have this sort of attractiveness and sense of luxury that you see in their marketing materials. You're not going to see too many images of Lamborghinis next to a trailer park, They tend to be mocked up next to mansions and villas and some sort of, luxury modern architecture, or next to the beach or some scenic environment, whatever it happens to be. Ferrari image, you see the same thing. It's next to some sleek office building, or clearly next to some sort of mansion. At the end of the day, you could say this is just a fucking car. It's got 4 set of wheels and it drives you places. But to be able to charge a higher price point and get people to gladly pay for it, this is what all of their branding efforts will try to convey to you. You'll see the same thing with, like luxury cologne advertisements and stuff, where they get these attractive models. This guy looks like he just stepped off a fucking yacht or something. This guy's here in his tuxedo. This guy's here looking sharp. You don't see a whole lot of cologne advertisements featuring like a dirty farmer or some guy wearing overalls and a smelly tank top. And even though you might want to say, whatever, it's just the same shit, I can just slap some basic default images up there. It's just one of those things where, like, even though though the product might be the same, the presentation of the product makes a big impact on how customers perceive it, how attractive it looks to them. This is just a big part of advertising and marketing generally, even for something like food and hamburgers. Like, this is a great example, actually. Cheeseburger, advertising image versus reality. I'm sure you guys have seen these before. It always looks fucking tremendous in the advertisement. Some of the stuff they do to make them look realistic is hilarious. Oftentimes they'll use like fake components and like fake tomatoes, or they'll just do all kinds of weird shit. But the point is, even for something as simple as cheeseburgers, they want to present it in the best, most idealized light. This is just sort of common sense. It's the same thing with your e-commerce products. Like, your customers probably don't have a luxury mansion with spotlights that's going to descend upon their artwork pieces and shit like that. You probably just live in a pretty plain, normal looking home. But these more attractive images help to create that sort of aspirational feel to your products, where it's like, this is the ideal that I'm going for. This is what I want my home to look a lot more like. And this can really make it so your products have more of a pull factor to them, where it's like, yes, that's what I want my fucking place to look like. You know, if you mocked this up in just a very plain apartment, just like a boring white wall, it wouldn't look as good. This is what really any smart marketer will do, is they'll try their best to just portray their product in the best light to make it look as attractive as humanly possible. It works for burgers, it works for e-commerce products, and this is definitely something you should take seriously on your store. Even if you're not necessarily trying to convey like a luxury sort of brand aesthetic, you still want to make sure that your images are good, high quality, you know, present the product in an attractive light, just for the sake of making your website look professional and respectable and looking like you have a high quality product offering. This is something that can just help to drive more conversions on your site and make customers feel more confident that the product that they're going to purchase is going to be high quality and reflective of what they see on your website. Another component of this is realism, where I would argue that having some very realistic looking mock-up images can also help to inspire that consumer confidence when they're browsing your website and considering making a purchase. You know, if your images obviously look like they're sort of fake, or, you know, the image looks sort of like artificially pasted into the scene, like this shitty image here that I prepared, I mean, the lighting is all off, it doesn't match, there's no drop shadow or anything on the image. It clearly looks like you sort of just like slapped this on top of an image, and it just doesn't look remotely realistic. And so adding some realism into the scene can really help to communicate to your customers that sense of trust, professionalism, and high quality in your product offerings. So there's a number of different places that you can get mockup images from. Me personally, I would recommend trying to get PSD mockup files. These are mockup scenes that you can actually open up inside of Photoshop, and what I like about these is you have control over the appearance of the mockups. You know, you can fiddle around with the settings to try to make them more realistic and make the mockup look the way you want to. And by having PSD mockup files, you can actually automate the bulk creation of your mockup images. So especially if you have a large product lineup where you're creating mockups for maybe dozens or even hundreds of product images, and maybe you need to create 5 or 10 different mockup images per product, instead of clicking around and taking forever to make your mockup images one at a time, you can instead just completely automate the bulk creation of all the mockups that you need. It's a great way to save time on this process compared against doing it one by one or using something like Placeit. My go-to resources for high quality mockup images tend to be Creative Market. Createsy has some very good ones as well. If you're looking for like excellent realism and just really high quality mockups, you can even just go to Etsy. There's actually the Etsy marketplace where there's just a bunch of digital products that you can purchase. There's just tons of offerings on here, like an absurd, ridiculous amount of offerings. You can find just about anything you want. If you're looking for just really dirt cheap low prices, you can just go to Etsy and find a bunch of digital files there. Creative Market, Createsy, they do tend to be more expensive, but you tend to find very high quality stuff on here as well. If you want to really push it, sort of like Intuitive does, where they're creating like custom mockup image scenes specific to the image they're selling, so the color schemes match and everything. One thing you could do is you could even just go to a resource like Adobe Stock, and you could just find mockups of the rooms or environments themselves. You could even use a tool like Midjourney to just create the images in real time, where you could just say, you know, show me a luxury room with like a black desk and a black chair, or I need like a red lamp accent or whatever it is. You could do something like that if you want to, and you could just basically take a plain mockup image like this, and then you could just sort of drop it into the scene that aligns with what you're going for. Or if you want, you could just sort of create like a standardized set of mockup images that look pretty good and look pretty high quality. Not this one, fuck, stay away from this. You know, you can still have like a good, solid, standardized set of mockup images where you just use it for all your products if you don't necessarily want to be as sweaty as this website, where it's like, you know, I got to get a red fucking leather accent, and there's got to be, you know, a red rug for this one, and some red lampshades and a red pillow just to match with it. If you don't want to push it to the max like that, cool, you can just get some attractive, good-looking mockups that are sort of generic and will sort of work generally for any type of product. You'll notice these ones here, I sort of went for just like pretty neutral colors where it's hard for something to look bad with it. You know, just a lot of whites and blacks and grays and stuff. That way you can drop just about any sort of image in here and it looks good. Same with these more generic ones. I mean, these are just sort of plain, straightforward images, but I made sure that the images were sharp and high resolution and the images would show and look good compared against, you know, the blurry sort of pixelated trash that you'll get from some print-on-demand providers just as their basic, generic, sort of more boring mockup images that they'll offer. So I'm going to show you real quick how to use files like these. I'm going to show you how to make your mockup images one at a time, and then I'm going to show you how to automate this process to where it makes it freakishly easy to just click a few buttons to create however many mockup images you want. So here is like the original file. This looks a lot closer to what they would actually look like when you download them. Really don't be too intimidated. All you need to do is find the smart object layer, which basically corresponds to where your artwork image will go in the scene. Smart object layers, they have this little documents, you know, save icon looking thing here like so. So all you need to do is double click the smart object layer like so, which will open it in a new tab. Then you can just sort of drop your image inside of here, just size and position it to where it looks good. Save here, switch back over, and you have successfully replaced the smart object layer with your artwork design. Simple as that. Most of these files will have different layers that correspond to like the background and the textures and stuff like that. Oftentimes they'll warn you not to modify any of these. You can do whatever the fuck you want. I would just recommend saving a copy so you always have the original as a backup. You know, if you feel like the reflection's too strong, cool, we can tone it down a little bit. You know, sometimes they'll let you change the background color and the wall color and shit like that if you want to get super advanced with it. Oftentimes I'll notice that the texture is a bit much. Cranked up super high, it's like, fuck man, that looks terrible. So you can just fiddle around with different settings and just tweak it to where it looks good and it just looks the way you want it to basically. I'm going to show you how to automate the creation of your mockup images now, because it's all good and well to say, yeah, let's make some high quality looking mockups, but if it takes for fucking ever and you're spending hour after hour inside of Photoshop, stepping into the smart object, dropping your image, saving, diddling with pixels, file, export, cool, one image created. Just doing that for hour after hour, it's a very boring, repetitive process that can and should be automated in Photoshop using this Photoshop plugin. I'll have a link in the description for this. It's really simple to use. All you need to do is select the mockup or mockup templates that you want to use for the operation, point to your input folder that contains your artwork images that you want to make mockups for, then just point to the folder you want to export your final mockups to, click run this now, and it'll generate all your mockups for you with just a few simple button clicks. I'm going to run a couple quick operations to show you how this works. Photoshop document, that's going to be our mockup template to use. We'll just start with this plain black framed canvas mockup. Input folder to use, we're just going to find our folder of artwork images to use. Next, output folder to use, that's going to be our folder that we export the images to. This little slider here allows you to control the compression. So you don't want to push this too far, because if you drop it super down low, like yes, the file size will be small, which can be faster for load times on your e-commerce store. But if you go super far down, there will be a lot of compression and pixelation, and the details will be removed from your final images. If you push it super high though, if you're trying to do like, haha, 12 quality, the absolute best quality images imaginable, the file size could end up gigantic and the load times will be slower on your site. I'd recommend just finding a good balance where the final images look crisp and sharp and pretty indistinguishable from the highest quality image, but to where the file size is down to where you want it. There's also this handy checkbox here, stretch images to fit smart objects. Now this is useful if you know there's going to be some variance in your input folder images, because what happens, let me just show you real quick. So if you try to replace the contents of a smart object with an image that doesn't fit correctly, I have inside of here some 4x5 images. What'll happen is it'll look like shit. That's what happens, because it just doesn't fit correctly. And so if you have this checkbox enabled, when this operation runs, it'll automatically resize the images to perfectly fit your mockup scenes, and you'll create perfect looking mockups every single time. I'm going to go ahead and click run this now, and it's going to create our mockup images for us. So it opens the artwork image first, and that's so that it can resize it to fit the smart object. And it's just creating the images for us here. As you can see, this operation is completely finished. So that was a small, quick little operation I just did. It just cranked them out for us, completely automated. I'm going to show you how to really push this to the max, to where instead of just selecting one Photoshop document at a time, you can instead select an entire folder of PSD files to use. Really, for most print-on-demand sellers, this is probably the feature you want to use, because you can just point to all of the mockups you want to make images for. It'll start with the first one. It'll create the mockups for all of the artwork images in the input folder. Once that's done, it'll move to the second one. It'll create all the mockup images. Then number 3, 4, and so forth. So we're going to select our folder of mockup images to use. We're going to click run, and it's going to crank out the mockup images for us, completely automated, 100% on autopilot. So let's pop over, we'll take a look at the images it created for us. As you can see, it just made all the mockups for us. It's 135 images created. The fact that it groups the images by artwork name makes it super easy to just come in here. You can just drag your images, drop it onto your e-commerce store product page, whatever it is. Product number 1, cool, drag and drop. Product number 2, cool, drag and drop. Really, it just saves you an enormous amount of time on this process, because, you know, once you've decided that you want to make these better looking, more attractive mockup images, it can be a real drag to come in here and do this manually. So by using this automation tool, you can just click a few things, it'll do all the work for you. As a bonus tip, there's also an automation tool called the Bulk POD Product Creator, which allows you to automate the creation of your print-on-demand products. These two working in combination are an excellent power combo, because using this tool, you can basically create the products themselves on your print-on-demand store, and then using this one, you can generate your custom mockup images in bulk, pretty much automating like 90% of your workflow for your print-on-demand store. This one's super simple to use as well. You just select your image files up here. So basically for each one of your artwork images, it'll create a print-on-demand product. It'll also automatically upscale your images to high resolution, and it'll stretch and resize your images to fit the print areas of your product variants on your Printify store. Down here, this is where you just select the product that you want to create more of, basically. So the tool knows, cool, he wants to make more of this product, except using these artwork images up here. Then finally down here, this is where the tool can use AI image recognition to automatically generate titles, descriptions, and tags for each one of your products. This is extremely accurate. It's a tremendous time saver compared against sitting there and racking your brain to type the descriptions yourself, you know, describing the galaxy and the rocky vista that extends into the horizon, blah, blah, blah. Instead, you can just pass your images through this tool. All you got to do is come here, click create my products. It'll automate the creation of all your print-on-demand products for you. Then you can use this one to automate the creation of all your mockup images for your print-on-demand store. Big time power combo. You can find a link to both of these in the description if you want to check them out. Drop a like if you found this helpful. That's all I got for now. Thank you guys for watching, and see you later.